Okay, welcome to the May 15th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Kennebunkport Planning Board. Okay, for attendance, we're all here. Look at that. Okay, the approval of minutes, the minutes weren't quite ready, so we'll do 2 sets of minutes next time. The agenda. Okay, the first item is being deferred by the applicant. The second item is being deferred by the applicant, which brings us to item 3. 28 Wildwood Avenue, John and Jessica Schaefer, Terrapin Landscaping. So.
Hi there. I'm Amy Tobin. I'm the designer with Terrapin Landscapes, and I've put forth all of the paperwork for the Schaefers, so we felt that was the best representative for them this evening. They couldn't be here. So should I just get into a little bit about? Okay. So
you just submitted like an entire replacement, right?
A site plan review application, and yes. So previously, there's been planning board approval for the property when Eric Peterson of Peterson Architectural Group was completing construction on the house. They knocked down an existing residence at the location, and what Eric had proposed then included reconstruction of a different house, and as part of his proposal, he included landscape that had patio spaces on the front and rear sides of the residence that conformed to the original foundation of the house. And once the house was completed, the Schaefers no longer wished to have the patio spaces and would prefer to shift all of the hardscape allotment to a driveway area up in the front of the house, and with a pathway leading to the side door location. So my proposal, my plan shows a very simple driveway plan that goes right up to the house, simple pathway, as well as foundation beds around the house and planting beds around the perimeter of the residence, as well as a small boulder retention wall along the left side of the residence, as there is a slight slope to that area. There is also, during the house construction process, 2 shade trees were cut down without prior notice. I've addressed in my paperwork that we've confirmed with former code enforcement officer Werner Gilliam. There was correspondence between Werner and who had cut down the trees, and the appropriate response was that Terrapin would replace the trees in kind, and that is part of our plan, is replacement for the shade trees.
Okay. So, page do you have there? Okay.
I was the person who did the FOF on this, by the way.
Oh,
I've heard that the planting plan was deemed acceptable in the prior, when you guys had a first look at that, so that's good. I also got word from the DEP today that they did accept the plan, so that's gone through on the DEP end.
okay.
And Amy, just for clarification
Yes.
purposes, DEP's approval, that was what was submitted to the planning board here, right?
Yes,
Now, correct.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. They have the same information.
Yep.
So you're keeping the same amount of impervious, because you don't really show on the plan where the old impervious was. You don't indicate it on the plan, and where, I can see where the new impervious is, but you don't show where you took out the patio, where the patios were.
Okay. I believe that is shown at least on the, if you guys are able to look up the previous plan put forth by Eric Peterson, he does have that on there. I might have a copy in my folder here as well, if you'd like me to pass that around. Would you like me to get that?
Well, you have existing conditions survey.
Yes, that was an as-built survey completed after the house was constructed.
I didn't know if the lined area that kind of touches a propane tank in the back was what, it's unlabeled, and I wasn't sure if that was what was the patio, because I had the same question.
Aligned area.
There's, if you look at the, I guess, the one with the new foliage and all the different plants on it, there's an area that's shaded green, but it's got a rectangular line going around it, and I didn't know if that was what was to-be patio that had been changed.
May I just come look where you're pointing?
This here?
So that's the setback line.
Oh, that's the setback, so that's not the patio.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And on the initial layout plan, 15-foot setback.
Yeah, okay.
On rear, sides,
So-
and then,
Okay, that's just a setback. Okay, I was trying to figure out where the patio was
And-
that
and
wasn't being built.
Where were the trees that Jeff Bowley cut down?
they were on the left side of the property.
They were right here.
I think they're marked replacement trees,
Correct. Yes, so the areas
two
that,
big ones on the left.
yes, correct.
Or- No, wait a minute, maybe they're here.
I replaced them in proximity to where the original were cut down.
Why are you putting in a boulder retention wall? What is it retaining?
That area of the yard slopes off a bit into the neighbor's yard. It just felt that it would help keep the area a little bit more even.
Well,
When the driveway goes into place, it will, that in conjunction with the lawn along the side will help keep the area in place.
in place, you mean the soil won't move?
Yes, it'll be a form of erosion control.
It's gonna be hard to mow in there. No, I'm sorry, this is an initial review, so we can't have the public talking. There'll be a public hearing the next time. The next time we, well, if we say that the application is complete, there'll be a public hearing, probably 2 weeks from today when they come back. Okay. Yes, I understand. So there are no contours on this map to show that there's slope there.
It's the, I mean, it is the current conditions.
Usually you show the current conditions if you're going to put in something that we haven't seen before, and to explain why it would be there.
I thought it was understood, I thought the contours were only if I had to create a grading plan. There isn't any of the more invasive work, such as like the grading or anything like that, was done on Eric Peterson's half. We're not really going to need to be able to grade, or we're not really moving around earth very much. But if that's what's necessary, then sure.
Yeah, it would be helpful to have the old plan in front of us
Okay.
so that we can tell what the differences are.
This was the original Eric Peterson plan. Would you like me to, I have a copy here. I can also email it as well. Would you like it?
Can I just chime in for a second?
Absolutely.
I think we're struggling with what's the starting point for this application, right? We had an application, it was approved, work was undertaken, and a large part of it was completed. It wasn't completed, though, and an idea was changed, and you're coming up with a delta But the starting point for that delta, from a review point of view, I see folks are thinking they want to start with the starting point for the previous application. You know, if we're looking at, for example, saying, all right, and I don't know whether this is true or not, the existing structure is non-conforming because there's more than 20% impervious. Okay? That was true at the beginning of this process prior to Eric's work and all of that. And we want to say, well, whatever it was then, that's what's grandfathered.
Yep.
If that's changed and we're starting at a different point now, that's really not, that's interesting, but it's not sufficient. So we want to look at it end to end from what was grandfathered to what is being proposed today. And if we're missing a
Yes.
piece of that, that's why you're getting, you know, sort of puzzled looks.
Okay. I do have the hardscape calculations on the layout plan that shows that it is an even trade of hardscape.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you don't have that, but I'm
Okay.
saying that's why you're getting puzzled looks,
Okay.
at least from me. And I don't know, if anyone else chime in, am I hitting the right
No,
point
and
here?
that's what I'm trying to, there seems to be something missing.
What is it that's grandfathered?
Yeah.
I think that's what isn't crisp and clear in here, but it was in the previous application, but we haven't come prepared
Right.
as a board with that old one in mind.
Okay.
We approved that, it's gone, okay.
Okay.
We've forgotten. But if you can help us
Sure.
by putting that end-to-end story in place, that's what we're going to want to assess and hopefully approve.
Yeah,
But it's-
this
it's
isn't
more than
helpful
just
because the
landscaping,
other
it's
members
impervious.
can't see it.
No, I understand, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I do have a.
But if the question is, if she takes this and annotates it in some fashion and
Yeah.
gives it, makes it a part of this package, is that sufficient?
Right?
That's where,
Well, I guess we need kind of the impervious calc of the existing before it was rebuilt. Then the impervious calcs of the plan that was approved. And then, okay, how are we changing from that to what is now submitted?
and it,
We
yeah.
can't, you shouldn't be able, to- I'm assuming this is non-conforming, so we shouldn't be able to increase impervious over each of those steps.
I'm making that assumption too. I don't know whether setbacks rather, are an issue here at all, but
Yeah.
that compilation of the whole story, so that, not just so that we can make the decision here, but then it can be in the new findings, be part of the record, so that when somebody a year from now comes in
They
and
can
says,
refer.
I got a new idea,
Yeah.
you know, it's a
I
complete,
do.
consistent story.
I do have, in the hardscape allotments, lot size, existing approved hardscape, which means the
Yep.
existing amount. So I suppose I'm a bit unclear as to what further,
We're not
Infer-
changing, for example, the house is there, we're not changing
Well, you are,
any setbacks.
well, you
No,
are
so-
changing where the impervious is going.
Yes,
And you've
The
got
location,
it
correct.
right up to the edge of the lot. Whereas before, it was in patios around the house. And then you've got this boulder wall, which suddenly shows up in your application.
Yep.
And we have no topography to explain why that boulder wall is there. And, yeah, you know,
it's, the boulder wall is only about 2 or 3 feet tall, which essentially would
yeah,
help
but
to even out the space.
we need to know this, and we need it in your application. When you're changing something, we need to know, you know,
From when,
all the parameters around that change, and we need to know why.
Right. And among other things, you're claiming in the letter that I see in the middle of this, that topography is NA.
Not applicable? Well, it's obviously applicable if you've got a boulder wall
So
there,
we do need to see the topography.
Okay?
okay?
this is an area of town that's largely pretty flat.
Largely pretty flat.
And that, I think that's the reason for the request for the waiver. So when they went to the planning board in 2002, This was to increase the base flood elevation, it was to move the structure up, so there was upgrading on the site to keep it fairly flat, where the structure actually is, and it slopes down at the property line edges. So that was approved in 2002, so that's why she sort of requests a waiver. She's not changing the grading contours for that, because it's already done, the construction's complete. So I think that's why she requested the waiver, for that reason.
I understand that, but we're now looking at grading. It's new. There's a topography change, and, you
But
know,
that was already approved by the planning board.
But think about,
Right.
the grading was changed.
Yep.
Right.
but
And I'm looking at a quote-unquote retaining wall, or why don't we just call it a hardscape feature? It's gonna go on or just inside of the property line. The question that pops to your mind is, is this gonna change runoff water? And is there any concern there, given the storms of the past year and all, that water is gonna be redirected in a fashion that is problematic for a neighbor?
I
Or is it-
think if anything, it would make it less problematic because it would help ensure that the soil in the yard isn't moving down
You
into
don't have the
culverts.
erosion,
Yeah,
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that answer.
but need to.
That should pop out at us when we're looking at
Yeah.
materials.
And-
Can you help us
But
understand that story?
Was the rock wall there in 2021?
there was nothing there prior. It's a
This is a
little
new
culvert
feature.
with some plants.
So that's a new feature you're adding without,
Yes,
without
yes, it's
really
labeled as a
telling us why.
new boulder retention wall.
I'm not clear on a distinction, just because I'm ignorant. If it were a fence, like, a split rail fence, would that be the same issue, or is it because it's boulders and it's covering an impervious area? Or
If it
would a split
was-
rail fence be an issue as well?
the fence would be an issue because you have setback requirements.
Okay,
If it's over 7 feet, if it's under 7 feet, code will
Then
permit it, you can
then
do it up to the
is-
property line.
Right,
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
but,
gonna ask the same question on the
but
boulders.
you're right in the setback with this boulder wall. We don't have a height on it.
Right.
I'd like more information.
sure. So if I include boulder size, ultimate height, and the fact that its purpose is, say, erosion control, include some topographic information, that would be clear?
Yes.
Okay,
And it is in your calculation of net impervious, one way or the other. The
Correct.
boulders are,
they're calculated into
they're
it as well.
impervious, and they are entirely on the
the
applicant's
property.
property.
Correct.
And because I don't know, would a split rail fence be impervious?
No.
No,
No,
I
okay,
think so.
Yeah,
just want to clarify.
maybe with a post one in.
yeah.
Not significantly, though, yeah.
Okay, so we need some more information here.
Sure.
Okay? And then, it would really be helpful to put over this maybe a red line showing where the patios were,
Sure.
Just so we
That's
can
the-
see,
that's
this
the
is what
prong
we
two you're
gave up.
asking about.
Yeah, this is
Yep.
what was surrendered or changed to
Right.
put into the driveway into the retaining wall.
yeah. The other thing, I'm gonna make some recommendations here
Sure.
as a botanist and as a shade tree committee member,
Yes.
okay? I looked at your list of plants. I think some of them won't fly.
Okay.
One, we try to go native as much as possible.
Yes.
Some of these are native, some of them aren't. Because the natives just grow stronger and are hardier, especially in the area you're at. You're gonna get, during storms, you're gonna get salt spray. You're in a marsh, you're gonna get mucky, and you're gonna get some salt that way. A lot of salt mist will come in off the
The
ocean.
spray.
Okay, so, one, you have a weeping Alaska cedar in the corner of the house. And I don't know what your measurements are there, but I can tell you I have one on my property. They get big. They go 100 feet. Mine has been there maybe 7, 8 years. And it's already at least 30, 40 feet, and I put it in small. It's not native. It's not that salt tolerant. It can tolerate pollution, but not salt as much. you might consider something that might stay smaller for the house.
Okay.
Because you've got shading around there on two sides. I don't know whether you get deer chewing on things around or not, but
Or in
like
loose
a
rocks somewhat.
pyramidal holly, which could take that shading, might
Right
be a
under
better
an
fit.
existing tree, too. Isn't it right under an existing tree?
No, this is your
WA.
Alaska cedar.
WA.
Like a specimen.
Yeah, WA is your weeping Alaska cedar.
Oh, that's weeping.
Yeah,
Okay. sorry.
okay. They're really pretty, but they grow fast and they grow big.
Sure, I'll take that recommendation into
Yeah,
account.
I would go back and look at things like pyramidal holly.
Sure.
The maples that you're putting in to replace the trees are also not that salt tolerant. And that may be why you had some that were rotting, because they can't handle the salt air that much. One that might replace that and still gives you good red color in the fall, if that's what they're looking for, which is a large tree, a black gum, Nyssa sylvatica.
Yes, those are beautiful.
They can look at small ones we planted in front of the town hall, and there's one on the corner of Oak and West Street. And they're native trees as
Sure.
well,
Sure,
but they're much more salt tolerant than a red maple.
sure.
Is this your expertise, or are you calling on Terrapin for the landscaping?
I'm with Terrapin.
Oh, you are with
Landscape.
Terrapin, I'm sorry.
Yes, yes,
she
I'm,
knows
I'm
plants.
their landscape designer.
She obviously
are,
knows
okay.
Nyssa. Okay.
That's what I was checking.
Yep.
Arborvitae,
Yep, but
Very
I'm always open to my
course.
collaboration here, so,
Aren't we all?
yep.
arborvitae, you've got a line there. They're very salt sensitive. They really are. Unless there's a new variety that isn't. I know that they're salt sensitive.
I know the Arborvitae plicatum are generally a little bit more tolerant of deer and salt than the other varieties. So that's why we had gone with the
Okay.
plicatum.
Well, you can go with that, but you might consider things like eastern red cedar or yews, which are native. And they'd be a little better in that situation.
Okay, I'll think about that. I know we're trying to find something
Yeah.
vestigiate to be
It's
able
hard to
to,
find something that's,
vestigiate, yeah.
but they have used now those pencil yews, and they have used they just put some in over
Like
West
the,
Street that
like
are enormous.
plum yews? The plum yew, that's like upright, you mean?
Yeah, they're kind of thin, though. But if you go over to West Street, they just put in some yews. They're massive, but
They're large
upright and tall.
specimens.
Okay.
They're large specimens over there.
They're very large. They need to cut them back when they put them in. Oh, they were also made to push them back because they were in the town right away. But that's another thing. Your hydrangeas. Limelight is a fad right now. People are loving limelight, but I don't recommend it there.
We've had some success with the limelights up Goose Rocks in the area.
Well, let me tell you about hydrangeas. Those big bushy panicles, you know, that they have in the new hydrangeas, the big, giant lollipop type things.
Paniculata.
They're sterile, and there's nothing there for the bees and the butterflies and the pollinators. They're sterile flowers. The flowers you see are sterile ones. It's the inside flowers, and they don't have them, they can't get to them. A native that's really beautiful and has panicles that work with pollinators is our native oak leaf hydrangea,
I love those, yeah.
which is a beautiful thing. You know, you get the leaves,
And
and then
the fall
you get
color.
your large panicles, and they change color as well. That you might consider putting that in instead. Or arborvescens, the Haas halo, which is a native, is also a beautiful plant and grows very well in this area. Again, it's pollinator friendly. So those are my suggestions. You can go with what you want, but you might be better off with some of these other native plants.
Okay. Thank you,
And-
yeah,
and
I'll
that
take that
comes
into
from our-
consideration.
Vice Chair, who is a botanist,
Yeah,
Right?
right, which,
she knows her stuff.
you know, very good
Well,
recommendations.
And a
but
gardener,
They
so I
don't,
know what
they
grows.
don't, they don't affect our approval, however.
No, they don't affect our approval, but I'm just looking at this plan and saying I'm not sure all of this is going to work.
Sure.
And it's a lot of work and a lot of money to put in a landscaping plan like this, which is a very nice one.
We'd want to make sure that it thrives, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
and that's all I had.
All right.
I just need some clarification.
So I just had one.
Move to continue this initial hearing then?
Well, yeah, but let's.
I got one,
let's
I
go
got
to
one more.
questions.
More questions?
So you've got 3 drawings here, sheet 1, 2, and 3. Could you show the north arrow on each of these?
Each of them does have the north arrow.
I didn't see it on here. Right here. Oh, at the bottom, oh, that's the north arrow.
The north arrow.
Okay, could you make sure, well, could you clarify that that's the north arrow? Maybe put an N or something? I don't know.
Sure.
It's the latest design.
I got you, it's in the note, it's not actually on the drawing, okay, thank you for that.
Oh, it's over here. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So have we reviewed other than this one issue, is the rest of the plan, the rest of the submission in good shape and has everything we need?
Well, we're looking for confirmation though, right, that the additional, this stone wall is included in the impervious area?
Yeah, we need to know that the
So there-
stone wall is.
so there-
is
I
part of
think there's actually some information we need before the plan could be considered complete.
agree.
Yeah, okay,
No, I'm just trying to make sure that she
All right.
doesn't come back here week after week and say, no, not quite.
yeah.
Make sure she has everything.
I'd like that too.
I thought you would. So,
Yes, I do have that the retention wall is included in the proposed hardscape. That's a part of the hardscape allotment calculations that I have on sheet 2 of 3, the permit plan.
And Amy, there's no proposed lighting, correct?
Correct.
okay, so the big thing we want additionally is kind of on one of these charts, probably the pretty color one, but any other, you know,
Yeah.
from to that this is asking for. You're asking for moving this little patio back here into the new square footage of the parking area up front.
Correct.
Tom, can I
Yes, please.
I want to be able to see what the impervious situation was at the start of before the work was
Before
started.
before the house was even there.
When
you
it
mean.
came to the
Yep,
board last time, it started, and this is what it looks like. This is initial,
Yep,
and it's this percentage, and there's where things are.
sure,
And then, where is it now?
sure.
And if we can do it with the intermediate step, all much the better, but those are the 2 key points, I think, are
Sure.
before, the very beginning and where we going now.
Yeah.
So I
Is
can,
Plan is saying 12.6 to 12.6,
so I can include
Okay, which is
the,
great.
so we want to.
I just want
see
to
that
see it on the drawing.
sure, so I can include the initial Eric Peterson drawing itself, and as well, I can include that initial foundation line on the new layout plan.
That would be great.
Oftentimes, when someone comes to us and they're changing around the impervious situation in a non-conforming lot especially, what they'll do is make a box on the plan, or you can just submit it on a piece of paper showing earlier existing before changes, okay? Where the impervious structures were, like a patio, a wall, a driveway, and for each of them, list the amount of impervious, and then the total impervious. And then you made the second change when Peterson came in, and the same thing, where are the impervious sections and how much impervious in each one?
Okay.
Then total it. And then your change, where
Yep.
boulder wall, driveway, wherever there's impervious, list
Right.
how much impervious in square feet,
Okay,
and then just total it.
so I
And
only have
that
the
makes-
existing total, and then I'll just
Right.
expand that a bit.
Right.
That makes
Sure.
it very easy for us to compare,
Compare, sure,
okay?
You told the story behind your chart, in that case, behind your table.
sure.
Thanks for that.
So I guess we'd like to see you next time in early June.
Yeah.
It's gotta be 2022. 2002?
2020?
I think it's in
They're
there.
in there.
It's in
They're
there.
in there. They're in there.
That's the 2020, that's the 2021
Right.
findings of facts.
It's 5 June.
Yeah.
Is the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll send out another packet that includes the updates, is that
Awesome.
correct?
Yeah, it can just be updates, you don't have to.
Just-
do the
Just
whole packet
updates, you don't
again.
have to do the whole thing all over again.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, sure.
And you are gonna show some top topography, right?
Yes, sir.
Topo line's great, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. That little Excel spreadsheet would do really well, you know, this is the impervious
Yeah.
all
Right.
the way before the next, you know, with this,
Oh, we got,
you know, where the pieces were and such. So,
Sure.
thank you.
All
So
right.
we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank
For
you.
that.
I'm gonna recommend we continue the public hearing.
5th of June.
Continue the initial review.
Yeah, we'll continue
well,
initial
no, it won't
review.
be a,
Okay.
Send a note.
Will it be a public hearing next time?
Well, I'm just saying, if you want to be
First,
heard.
first Wednesday in June will be the next meeting.
First Wednesday in June is an initial review. It will not be a public
Yeah,
hearing.
it's gonna be a continuation of the
It would
initial.
luckily be the second,
So this abutter is asking,
the second meeting.
when do
in
I
June.
get to ask my question or to
Third
say my
Wednesday.
piece?
Right.
And that'll be,
Well,
so there's
we
nothing to.
can't take comments right now,
But there's
unless
not-
you want to email them.
Yeah,
You
or
can write them out and email them to the board. Just send it to the planning office and they'll get that to us. Okay, if you have an argument.
Well, it is because it's not a clear process. But the other thing is that if, I can't give you advice, but you might want to just take Amy aside after this and say, you know, I have a suggestion that might head off some time later on. Is there any way we could talk about this, or does this have to go to Eric Peterson, or, you know, her team? Amy, I'm throwing you to the wolves over here, but this abutter has has an issue that's gonna come up at some point.
I believe you maybe emailed Mike and he responded. I haven't emailed anybody.
No.
Okay, you're to the left of the Schaefer? I am. Oh, okay.
On the side,
Well, you can
So
also,
if we,
Probably
if we- you guys can have this conversation outside, that would be
Yeah.
great, since we have a couple other items on the agenda to take care of. All right?
we're just saving ourselves time for the future, though. That's the next initial meeting, and then
it would be the,
no, it'll still be an
Talk to her.
initial
only with your
review.
hands.
The
We
process is the application has to be complete. After that, then the public hearing takes place. And no final approval until after a public hearing.
But this is your prime opportunity to talk. Yep.
Thank you.
over
Thank
the
you
river,
both.
through the woods.
Okay,
I'm sure it's frustrating.
so you want me to take this one?
Sure.
Since I
You
did the
wrote the last
findings
one.
of fact on the last one.
Yep, that sounds good. Okay, so that brings us to item 240302, 438 Kings Highway, and that's Mike West's finding of facts.
Oh, boy. All right.
Dearly beloved.
Kennebunkport Planning Board finding of facts and decision application for, is it Mara and Francis not quite sure how to do their name, for 438 Kings Highway, Kennebunkport, Maine. The following site plan reviews pursuant to Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held on the 3rd of April, 2024, and a public hearing held on the 1st of May. The Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following finding of facts and conclusions and renders the following decisions subject to the conditions enumerated below. Finding of facts are as followed. The applicant and owner of record are Morrow and Francis Per with a mailing address of 3 Plymouth Road, Summit, New Jersey, 07901. In a letter dated 19th of March 2024, Mara and Francis authorized Christy Kenny of AIA/WK Architects with the mailing address of P.O. Box 404 Wells, Maine 04090, to act as agents in this matter. The property has a street address of 438 Kings Highway, Kennebunkport, Maine, zip code 04046. The property is identified as map 33, block 2, lot 27 of the municipal tax assessor's map. The applicant demonstrated legal interest in the property by providing a 2-page trustee's deed for the property recorded in York County Registry of Deed Books 18494, page 255 on December 18th, 2020. The property is located in the Goose Rocks and Shoreline Protection Zones. The property is in an application process with DEP. The property comprises approximately 23,793.7 square feet within the shoreland zone and a total of 120 square feet total, per the information provided by the applicant. The existing residential property consists of one building which conforms to, oh, it's printed on both sides, okay. Setback distances to lot size and area dimension. The application is dated 18th of March 2024. The applicant proposes to build a new 728 square foot garage. The space above the accessory structure on the second floor is not a dwelling unit for the lack of kitchen and cooking facilities, and this area does not qualify for the short-term rental license program or for occupancy by tenants. This space may be used incidentally by the property owners as an office or for visiting friends and family. The proposed structure is within the 250-foot shoreland zone. The total existing interior surface area of the building is 3,706.9 square feet, and the proposed interior surface area will be 4,434.9 feet. The existing lot coverage is 10.1%, and the proposed lot coverage will remain the same 10.1%. The property is connected to the public sewer and public water supply. The applicant requested submission waiver from the topographic contours on the plan requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, as the property is generally flat at 10 feet. The waiver is approved by the planning board. Pursuant to the requirements of Article 10.10A of the Land Use Ordinance Guidelines for Decisions, the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling in one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and then M are all those were findings yes. M is finding not applicable. N, O are findings yes. P is finding non-applicable. When proposed development will be located within the shoreline or resource protection zone, additional requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, Article 10, Town-wide Regulations, Article 6, and the performance standards for specific activities and land use is in Article 7. Approval of the development will also require planning board to make positive findings based on the information presented. 10 is yes, or excuse me, A is yes, B is yes, C is yes, D is yes, E is yes, F is yes, or F is not applicable. There is no archaeological or historical resources. G is yes, and H is yes. Any negative findings by the board means that the application is denied, otherwise the application is complete. Conclusions, Article 10, 10A of the land use ordinance mandate that the planning board shall approve the site plan applicant unless it makes one or more of the following identified findings that would otherwise compel denial, as noted above. The board makes no such findings. Decision of the plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval, if any, pursuant to Article 10.11 and 10.12E. The applicant, pursuant to 10.12E, shall notify the planning board prior to transfer of rights to construct approved project. Final approval from Maine Division of Environmental Protection must be provided before building permit can be issued for this project. Final approval from the town of Kennebunkport for erosion control provisions must be provided to meet the LUO requirements enforced by the code enforcement officer before a building permit can be issued for this project. The application must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the York County Register of Deeds before any permits may be issued or before any construction activities commence. The application shall comply with all the terms and conditions of the town of Kennebunkport ordinances as well as Maine DEP approvals. Dated 15 May 2024. Here ends the lesson.
Okay.
The one thing is, this copy didn't have the change turned off, so it has a couple of lines in it for things.
Change bars, that's okay.
Change. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay,
So I move to approve the finding of facts.
I'll second.
okay,
Approved?
Approve.
approved.
Approve.
Okay. So, that brings us to Mr. Francis, which is item 240401, 670 Kings Highway. So, please proceed.
So I'm going to read the findings of fact for 670 Kings Highway. Kennebunkport Planning Board, findings of fact and decision for the application of Brian and Lynn Lucier of 670 GRB Realty Trust. And that's at 670 Kings Highway, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046. Following site plan reviews pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held on 17 April and 1 May 2024, and a public hearing held on 1 May 2024, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings of fact and conclusions and renders the following decision, subject to the conditions enumerated below. Findings of fact are as follows. 1, the owners of record and applicants are Brian and Lynn Lucier, 670 GRB Realty Trust, with a mailing address of 14 Spruce Lane, Dracut, Massachusetts, 01826. 2, in a letter dated 28 January 2024, the applicants authorized Walsh Engineering Associates Incorporated to act on their behalf on this matter. Walsh Engineering Associates, Inc. has a mailing address of 1 Karen Drive, Suite 2A, in Westbrook, Maine 04092. Item 3, the property has a street address of 670 Kings Highway, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046. 4, the property is identified as map 34, block 2, lot 13 on the municipal tax assessor's maps. 5, the property is in the Goose Rock zone and entirely overlaid by the shoreland zone. 6, the applicants demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a warranty deed for the property, recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds, Book 19222, page 95, on 14 April 2023. 7, the applicants provided a copy of the required MDEP permit by rule for their work with their application, showing its approval on 12 March 2024. 8, the lot is legally non-conforming in area and frontage. The property area is 3,134 square feet and has 66 feet of frontage along Kings Highway per information provided by the applicants. 9, the existing residential structure is legally non-conforming due to setbacks. The existing left and right setbacks are 0.88 foot and 11.03 foot respectively, which do not meet the required 15-foot minimum. The existing rear setback is 6.5 foot, which does not meet the required 10-foot minimum. The existing front setback is 12.71 foot, which does meet the required 10-foot minimum. Item 10, the existing residential structure is legally non-conforming due to lot coverage. The existing lot coverage is 49.7%, which exceeds the required 20% maximum. 11, in an application dated 18 March 2024, the applicants proposed to remove the existing structure and replace it with a new single-family home. 12, the proposed left and right setbacks would remain non-conforming, but slightly less so, at 0.94 foot and 12.13 foot, respectively. The proposed rear setback is slightly less non-conforming at 6.64 foot. The proposed front setback remains conforming at 10.2 foot. 13, the proposed lot coverage is 46.5%, which is slightly less non-conforming. Item 14, plans provided by the applicants show that the proposed structure would have a living area of 1,749 square foot, an increase of 77 square foot, or 4.6%, from the existing 1,672 square foot. The proposed living area and volumes of the non-conforming areas of the new home, the areas within the setbacks, are not increased. Item 15, the elevation at the bottom of the framing for the first floor is 3 foot above grade, as required by the coastal sand dune limit of erosion hazard area, instead of a base flood elevation. The property is bounded both to the north and to the south by the flood zone, elevation 10, letter of
Map revision.
2023, thank you. Item 16, in response to concerns raised by the board for the potential of bird strikes, the applicants agreed to provide exterior screen over the second floor picture window. Item 17, the applicants provided a copy of the required MDEP permit by rule for their work with their application, showing its approval on 12 March 2024. Item 18, the applicants requested no submission of performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. Item 19, pursuant to the requirements of Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance, Guidelines for Decisions, the Planning Board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. And I'll report that all of the findings are yes, so that will not compel denial. There is one that has a comment added to it that I think is, I'd like to read. It's item D, the provisions for buffers and on-site landscaping provide for adequate protection to neighboring properties from detrimental features of the development. The finding is yes, but I've added the comment that captures what I hope is the spirit and the fact of the discussion that occurred at the last planning board. In response to concerns raised by the abutters on the left side of the property, as viewed from the street, the applicants agreed to several changes to their proposed plan for a raised side deck. Access to the area under the deck will be moved to the rear, from the applicant's backyard. Support columns for the deck will be moved in from the shared property line to allow room for existing plantings along that line to be retained. And privacy screening will be incorporated into the railing system of the raised deck along the shared property line. When a proposed development will be located within the shoreland zone or the resource protection zone, in addition to the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, Article 10, the townwide regulations in Article 6, the performance standard for specific activities in land uses in Article 7, approval of the development also requires that the board makes positive findings based on the information presented that the proposed use will, and then there are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, all of which the findings are yes, no reason, or not applicable, no reason to compel denial, although I did add a comment to item D, which is the article that asks about having an adverse effect on the spawning grounds of fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. And this is the one that caused the applicants to include appropriate measures to minimize incidents of bird strikes on windows. Any negative finding by the board means the application has been denied. The application is otherwise complete. In conclusion, Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more findings that would otherwise compel denial, and as is noted above, the board makes no such findings. Decision, the site plan application identified above is hereby approved. There's 4 conditions. 1, the applicants pursuant to 1012E shall notify the planning board prior to the transfer of rights to construct an approved project. 2, the applicant must report a copy of this decision and must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the York County Registry of Deeds before any permits may issue or before any construction activity may commence. The applicants shall also provide to the town of Kennebunkport a copy of the MDEP permit by rule prior to the commencement of any work. 3, the applicants shall comply with all terms and conditions of the town of Kennebunkport ordinances, as well as the main DEP approvals. 4, because this property is on an area of significant bird activity, the applicant has agreed to incorporate measures to reduce bird strikes into the new design. All exterior windows shall utilize such measures. For example, exterior screens, bird-proof glass etching, visual striping, etc. So dated 15 May 2024, the Kennebunkport Planning Board.
I move we accept it as read.
I second.
Okay,
Approved?
Approved?
approved.
Approve.
Okay. I noticed, do we have, Galen, you laid out a bunch of,
I was just showing that for Amy.
Hmm?
I was just showing that to Amy.
oh, okay.
Yep.
Because usually, if it were a subdivision, we'd
Right.
have to sign it.
Nope.
But there's not on this,
Nope.
okay. Very good, then I'll take, while we're signing, I'll take one more motion.
Is there any new business?
I actually do have new business to share with you. I did hire a code and planning coordinator position, so that is now filled, and we are excited for the new person to start working in June. So we'll be introducing that person to you shortly.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Did they watch any of the meetings beforehand?
Yes, yes.
And they still came on
Still
board?
want to
Yeah.
come?
They read
All
your
right.
minutes, yeah.
They need a certain amount of bravery, I think, to join the fray.
Any names yet?
Yes. It's Nadia Crockett. She's currently in our payroll department for the town.
Oh.
Yep. We did an extensive search, and we think she'll be a great fit for the board and for.
That's terrific.
Good.
Yep.
Oh, this is,
Yeah, she just helped me finish off a grant application.
She's very thorough.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
I like
that's
that.
a good attribute in a
It
code
is.
enforcement position.
For
yes.
code enforcement, an excellent characteristic.
Did she
Yes.
memorize the land use ordinance yet, though?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Good luck with that.
Yep.
So, anything else?
That's all.
Okay, then now I will accept one more motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Now, that was
All in favor?
Approved,
Aye.
yeah.
We're done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.